Thanks for tuning in to One Big One FM. This is DJ Fish and our premiere episode of Nashville March presents The Heavy Side of Nashville. All local and heavy bands. This week we have the gentlemen from Dark Hound, who are also the co-founders of Nashville March, Nashville's metal and rock community hub. We welcome to the Electric Fishbowl, Dark Hound. Hey, welcome to the premiere episode of The Heavy Side of Nashville with boys from Dark Hound and Nashville March. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for being in the Electric Fishbowl studio.
Hello, hello. Happy to be here.
Greetings.
What's up?
How's it going?
So we have, why don't you go through and introduce each one of you and what you do with the band, Dark Hound, and then we're going to dig right into it.
Preston Walls, play guitar, split solos with Evan.
Josh Brown, I play drums.
E.T. Brown, and I play bass and sing, I guess.
Evan Hensley, I play the guitar.
Wonderful. When did you guys form? Tell me how you started and how you met each other, and go back to the early days.
Yeah, so Dark Hound was technically formed in 2009 when there was a band that I was in college with two of the other former members of Dark Hound, Elliot Gordon and Frank Serafine. And when that band collapsed, basically the drummer had to move away, and we ended up kind of scrambling and had known Josh for a while. When I met him, he was playing in a black metal band called In Full Darkness, which was an awesome band in the Murfreesboro scene. But he'd been playing in a band called Nashville Billy, which was kind of more of like a country rock thing. And I remember calling him and being like, "Hey, do you want to play metal again?" He was just like, "Yeah." And so we started Dark Hound, and it was really just kind of playing in Josh's parents' basement for a couple of years. Didn't really do much actively over the years. So Frank was the original singer and guitar player, and then when he moved on to other things, I took on the role of singing, and we got Evan to join the band. Evan and I had been in a band in college before all of that even, and he had moved to Sweden for a couple of years and moved all around, but he finally moved back to Nashville right at the time that Frank was kind of needing to do other things, so it just kind of happened that Evan and I came back together, and then we put out our first record in 2014, and so that's when we really first started gigging around Nashville. We put out an EP in 2015. Soon after that, Elliot moved to Washington State, so we got Preston, who was a childhood friend of Josh's and had gone to school with Evan and Josh when they were in high school and stuff, so it all just kind of came together, and then we just put out our second full length at the beginning of this year in January, and here we are.
Well, how did who was responsible for coming up with the name Dark Hound? Was it a collective effort, or?
Well, I remember we were sitting around, I think, Frank's apartment, so the original singer of Dark Hound. And I want to say we had just had our first hangout as Dark Hound because, like E.T. stated, the band they were involved with before I came on board had broken up, and we just, okay, we're going to do this thing when it was called. So I think we were thinking about like Wolf Breeder or something goofy like that. That was what I thought was a great idea.
Yeah, Josh was like, I really like wolves or, a houndish sort of imagery. And so we were throwing names around like that. And because the band that we had been in before was called Ex Nihilo, which was like impossible to spell. And when we played shows, nobody could like find us on the internet and nobody knew how to pronounce it. And so my intention with the new band was, okay, we're going to have a name that no matter what, if you say it, people are going to know how to spell it. It's not going to get mispronounced. It needs to be simple. And so that was my only directive. And then we started throwing, and actually Elliot Wiley, who is a close friend of ours, and who Josh just moved into his house, and that's actually where we recorded the drums for this record, was at his house. He's the one who actually threw out the name, what about Dark Hound? Which I later came to find out that he came up with. He didn't just come up with that. That's apparently the name of some of the enemies in World of Warcraft or something that he plays a lot. So, so maybe that's unintentionally where it came from.
Did it make a difference? Was the domain available? A lot of people I've heard bands.
Yeah,
say,
no, there's actually. So our website is www.dark-hound.com, like hyphen, because the just darkhound.com is it's like an independent art dude that does puts up like a graphic painting that he did like once every 2 years or so. So that's why we have the Dash Hound. So.
Well, E.T., I'm going to let you introduce the first song off your brand new record that came out this year. Very excited that my wife and I both discovered you. We were going out that night to see Oblivion Myth, who we've had I've had on my Intense radio station show, and you were opening or playing with them. Not opening, really. It was, I think you played after them, didn't you?
No,
but anyhow,
first,
yeah, it doesn't. But it was great, and I remember when I looked at the lineup when Oblivion Myth was playing. It was the first I'd heard of your band, and went. And obviously, you go look up and want to listen to it, and I'm like, oh, I'm excited. So tell us about the first track, and then when we come back, I want to talk about Nashville March. We're going to get into that, but we're going to play 8 to 10 songs over the course of your 3 albums. A lot. I noticed like a very different sound, kind of a vibe with each of the albums, and definitely some involvement with you guys musically. That's very interesting, and we'll get into. But Everett, tell us.
So the Ashes of Your Worth is the first song off Dawning, and really our MO with this one is we wanted to kick this album off with a bang. So it's heavy, it's fast. It's got loud guitars and loud drums and lots of guitar solos, which was pretty much our general direction.
That's pretty much all we do. You just summed up. We don't have to talk about ourselves anymore.
Yeah, that's interview's over.
It's it. Interview's over. Well, the interview's over till after we play this song, at least. Here it is, the first song, the first single off their new album, Ashes. Welcome back to the heavy side of Music City. I don't know, heavy side of Nashville, heavy side of Music City. We were just talking about that while the tune was playing. This is the premiere episode, and every week, you guys have kind of started a new group here called Nashville March, which I immediately became a member. And tell us a little bit about that, because we're gonna, once we nail down a name here, we're going to call it Nashville March Presents the heavy side of Music City, heavy side of Nashville. So tell us a little bit about that, and how the idea of how it got started and what you guys are doing with that.
Yeah, so the Nashville March is something that Evan and myself and a guy named Brandon Bruce launched in January of this year. Really, our goal with it is to become kind of the central hub info station for rockers and metalheads in Nashville, to find where other rockers are hanging out, what shows are happening, what events are going on, where even highlighting some local businesses that are kind of on the rocker side, as far as like bars and vintage clothing stores and things like that. So we really just kind of want to be a bedrock to that community that we have in Nashville. That's a very growing, burgeoning thing, and it's something that came about. Actually, Evan and I talked about it many years ago, but the timing wasn't quite right. Nashville wasn't quite to where we are now, and then when Brandon and I started talking last summer, throwing some ideas around about how to do stuff for the local scene, the more we started talking about it, the more I was like, this is starting to sound like something Evan and I had discussed years ago. So we brought Evan in, and we spent a long time planning our launch, and now we have our website, NashvilleMarch.com, where we have an event calendar that lists all the rock and metal shows, from national touring acts to local bands to tribute cover nights, we've just been growing it from there. It's been interesting.
That's excellent. I'm happy to be a part of it, and very nice looking website. Killer logo too. Excellent logo idea. You got the metal horns, and the Batman building is the shadow. It's just whose idea? Who came up with that one?
That was a collective idea. It was done by Brandon's girlfriend, Madison. She does a lot of our graphic design stuff. Very talented, good ideas. And yeah, we just wanted something that represented Nashville, what our vision of Nashville is. And something, E.T., to jump back on the mission, I think E.T. hit it right on the head with the word community. That's really what we're going for, is building a network of different ways for people to connect and communicate with heavy music in Nashville. There's tons of pockets of music in this city of heavy music, hard rock, heavy metal. We're just trying to find ways to connect them so that they can strengthen each other.
Love it. Love the about there. For a while there in the early 2000s, the metal scene dwindled here for a little bit, and very disappointing to myself. Some of the metal clubs went down, but now, a little over a decade or 12, 13 years later, it's definitely on the upswing. You have some of the new venues popping up. The Basement East plays a lot of heavy stuff. Obviously, the End is a great spot. We have the Cobra now, which you guys have played at, where I saw you play the first time. So, there seems to be a change coming with that, and a lot of growth, and a lot of more local bands coming, rather than just heavy bands from Knoxville heading to Nashville. So it's excellent.
Yeah, it's a good time right now. There's a lot of cool things happening. And yeah, I think the next thing we've got coming up with that is starting on June 13th. We're going to be at the Crying Wolf doing some heavy metal DJ vinyl spinning from 7 to 9. And I think it might be turned into a monthly thing. I think the second Wednesday of each month we'll have a little heavy metal hang. We'll be spinning some of our heavy metal records. And
nice.
Hanging out. Called Midweek Metal at the Crying Wolf. So.
Oh, very good. And obviously that'll be, all that stuff is up, posted on the website.
Oh yeah, we have a newsletter you can sign up for, and there's easy ways to connect. We're on at the Nashville March on Instagram and Facebook, and NashvilleMarch.com is the website.
Excellent. All right. Well, one thing that I plan on doing every week on the show, whether we do it by phone, we'll have someone from your organization. I know Brandon's part of it as well. Whoever wants to call in and do a segment on the show of reviewing one of the best gigs of the week and talking about the upcoming schedule.
Yeah, that's great. Things like this where we can just have a platform for local bands to start standing on. That's where all this thing is going to go.
All right. I'm so ready. That's why y'all are here, because I'm excited about it. Hey, Josh, we're going to play another track. We're going to go backwards to your first album, Play Watercolor. Tell us about it a little bit and the direction you went with it, or anything worth speaking about the track.
All right, yeah, Watercolor is the last song on the first album we did. When did that album come out, dudes?
2014.
2014. And this is one of the songs Evan actually wrote for us whenever he joined the band. Because a lot of the songs we wrote them before Evan joined. And this is one of the two, I think, that he brought to the table. And it's my favorite off of this album. I think everyone else agrees, maybe, because we still play it.
This is like the main one from that record that still stays in the set.
Yeah. So it's a heavy one, fast, has a lot of the melodic components that we strive for, and we like it. Hope you guys like it too.
All right, here it is. Thanks for listening to OneBigOne.com. Watercolors. That's it.
The
There it is, Watercolors from Dark Hound's first album. Nice and heavy tune. I like it.
Oh, yeah.
So let's go through, start with Preston, and let's talk about where you guys were, like what you liked in your early days, what you listened to, and then what ended up affecting how you play as a musician. It's fine.
For me,
that's
I think,
perfect.
Yeah, for me,
That's
I think starting out playing with Josh back in 5th grade, we started trying to replicate Metallica records by playing all of their songs together, and then that evolved into Megadeth, and then I really got stuck on Pantera really throughout middle school and high school. So Pantera has been a huge influence on both my playing, just the blues roots of Dimebag's playing, and just the heaviness of their music and how everything's locked in. So I think that's probably my biggest influence, especially when I came in with these guys and started writing with them, wanting to make sure all of our songs were totally locked in on rhythm, had a groove to it, was very heavy, and then had guitars that just soared. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Well, obviously, growing up playing music with this guy, he kind of answered a little bit for me, and then I listened to the same bands, Metallica, Pantera. I was more of a Megadeth guy, and I would speak for the rest of the band. We all love Megadeth, so I think that's definitely at the core for all of us. But whenever I did join Dark Hound and was asked to do this, I knew it was going to be a newer band, and although I'd love nothing more than to play in Megadeth or a band like that, and to have been born in like 1966, so that I would have been the age that those guys were in the 80s. So like, that's the type of music I would have played. Fortunately, that didn't happen. But I also, towards the end of high school, I got into extreme metal, kind of something like black metal, death metal. Some bands that really stand out from that genre would be Cradle of Filth, Dimmu Borgir, excuse me, At the Gates, and Arch Enemy. So when I joined Dark Hound, I remember I really listened to those bands a lot, and all those drummers. I tried to play more like them as opposed to playing like the Megadeth drummer or the Pantera drummer, even though they're totally awesome, and I can't help but to emulate their playing.
Who is your favorite Megadeth drummer?
Oh, I would have to say Nick Menza, but Gar Samuelson, the first one. I mean, he was just so awesome. I always say Nick because I liked those albums a little more.
Yeah, Gar's wasn't there that long.
I think Gar, when it comes to like
yeah.
being a skilled drummer, he was the most unique, and he was a really, really, really good drummer.
Yeah,
all the drummers have been really good in my opinion.
True, I agree with that. Yeah.
Come on, be nice, be nice.
What about you? See, I mean, obviously you can hear a lot of Megadeth. I mean, there's stuff as I went through. I mean, I've listened to every track that you guys put out several times prior to this, just because I like it and I wanted to know a little bit more about it. But definitely the Megadeth influences there, both lyrically, musically. Like here's some nice Maiden riffs here and there, which is nice. It shows. But what would you say personally?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we also often say that Megadeth is like the collective, where the center of the Venn diagram of all of our tastes. Like Megadeth is the middle there, and I think you definitely hear that in our tunes. And we also go off into lots of different directions because we all like different stuff. I grew up liking classic rock a lot. The first bands that I was into from like my dad's collection were like Yes and Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and the Beatles, and then the thing that probably the biggest pivot when I was 11, I heard Ride the Lightning, and that changed my life. And then I started digging into heavier stuff. That was the first time I really got into like current music, because at the time the nu metal thing was happening. Once that thrash bug bit me and I found Megadeth, I mean, that was game over for me. I've gone through phases where I've gone down the rabbit hole of pretty much every subgenre of metal there is. I had my power metal phase and my glam metal phase and my death metal phase and my black metal phase and my prog metal phase. I went through all these things, but if I have to boil down my top 5, my favorite artist of all time is Devin Townsend. So anything he's ever done, Strapping, Devin Townsend Project,
nice
solo stuff.
Interesting.
And then Megadeth and Kiss and Faith No More, and Alice in Chains. I think that's like my top 5.
Kiss. You were just at the convention, I remember, a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
we
I
had
went
a
to the Indie Kiss
March
Expo.
get-together.
It ruled.
Yeah. Were any of the any band members there?
Yeah, Ace Frehley and Eric Singer,
Nice.
and Kulik, and yeah, I got to get up with the Gene Simmons band minus Gene Simmons to fill in for Gene Simmons, because I'm in a Kiss tribute band with a lot of the guys that are in Gene Simmons' solo band now, which is fun to say that Gene Simmons stole my band. But yeah, so I got to get up and play Almost Human up on stage there, which was a total trip with Eric Singer and Ace Frehley watching me.
Oh, wow,
And,
that's cool. Do we get any video, anything?
Yeah, there's some videos on the interwebs.
Nice.
And we got invited to Eric Singer's birthday party that night at the hotel, and so it was just like sitting there with like Chuck Garrett from Alice Cooper's band, who's a buddy. We like had our the Nashville table was the total misfit table. We were like cutting up and like they were doing a surprise party for Eric Singer. So, but when they told everybody to get quiet, of course, Chuck and Ryan Cook and all these people are just like ripping all these little jokes under the table, and we're all cutting up, and they're all telling us, "Shut up, he's coming." And it was just a total trip being in that room, and like Ace Frehley's at the next table in this little banquet room, and I'm just like, "What is my life right now?" But yeah, it was fun.
And finally,
yeah, so, for me, early teenage years got started with a lot of the stuff the other guys said, Metallica, Megadeth, Maiden, Big Four, thrash stuff. Definitely all huge influences. But one of the biggest, my favorite band is Rush, without question. I've been a huge Rush fan since I saw the video for Subdivisions on Scott Ian's rock show.
I thought it was
one
Time
night.
Stand Still. Wasn't that your favorite video?
It's not my favorite video. not the greatest Rush video of all time, but still a great Rush song.
they got goofy in the
Also
80s,
not the greatest Rush, not my personal favorite Rush
Yeah.
song, but. I actually like the 80s stuff a lot because
I do too.
I love the synthesizers. I love the whole thing. It's different, and it's one of the things I really appreciate about Rush is a lot of people like the 70s sound. They wanted them to stay with that classic prog rock sound, which is great. I mean, they did it; it was great. But the musical evolution present in a band like that is really inspiring. I think you can't stay the same all the time. You need to evolve, and that they've written, in my opinion, a number of masterpieces, or at the very least, excellent records across various styles of music.
Preaching to the choir. Oh, I love it. Yes.
To be able to grow like that, is crazy. That's something special.
The thing about me and with Rush and my wife and I know share this sentiment with them. I grew up in Western New York, which was about a 90-minute drive to Toronto. And prior to 9/11, I mean, you can go up to the border, say, "Hey, I'm going to grab beer," and come right back. That's how easy it was to get up there. And so going to Toronto I did it a lot as I was coming of age and became a big Rush fan. And Geddy Lee was known to come to Buffalo when the Leafs were playing the Sabres. And so it was kind of like, not that if you're a metalhead you were required to, but most people in Buffalo, I mean, they would sell out a couple nights in a row because you'd get that draw from the border. But Rush, the 2112 was really my first, other than hearing Van Halen and Black Sabbath on the radio or on the school bus, my first really heavy experience where I listened to an album and it affected me was 2112. And, I mean, took me away to a place where a friend and I were going through his brother's record collection and, looked at it, and it just didn't even know what Rush sounded like.
The robes on the back, they're standing there. Yeah,
they weren't the
great.
best stylists, and they say that themselves, but it didn't matter. I mean, you have just three.
Mustache.
It's a good stash. Yeah.
The porn mustache he had back then. But a band that never really, went through drama and breakups and fights, and just they evolved a number of times and written off by the label initially. So I love Rush as well.
The perpetual underdogs, in a way,
So we're going to do a couple tunes in a row, and we'll come back and chat a little bit more about some upcoming shows we got. And so, yeah, what do we got? I think we're going to go back to your new album now. And the Jagged Edge, yeah, we're just going to play a couple in a row. How's that? And then we'll take a break where we can all wet our whistles here, and we'll be back in a few. Here's Jagged Edge from the Dawning album, Dark Hound. All right, welcome back to the heavy side of Nashville. There was a couple on a row, and we're back in the studio with the members of Dark Hound, and we're going to talk a little bit about some local flavor that you guys like. I've discovered, obviously, you guys, and Oblivion Myth is one of my favorite local acts. How about you, Preston? What do you want to talk about?
I'll go ahead and steal one from everybody else here. Denman, we played out with those guys, and they're a ball to hang out with. We've done all the Metal Fest at the Basement East with them, played a couple of shows out. Great players, all of them, and great music. Good hang. It's fun.
Yeah, Preston stole my favorite. They're great. They're entertaining. Really cool to watch and play. But Time Trap has played out with us a lot, and Brandon, of course, is a friend of ours, and he's a Nashville marcher. So for me, I always like seeing them with us. That's mine. Of course, Dimon kicks ass, though. So let's not forget Dimon.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a really good crop of local bands right now. Better than I've seen the scene be in the 13 years I've been in Nashville. One of my personal favorites is the Dead Deads. Just absolutely awesome band. A couple others, Lilac. Nico Santora is one of the more badass dudes in the scene, in my opinion. And Taco Mouth, and who else, Evan?
Slider. Not as much on the heavy end of the spectrum, but some youngins who are really, really talented. They're guitar players. A big Rush fan as well. In fact, him and the drummer and I have geeked out on Rush a couple times, and he's got the Moog Taurus pedals live and all that stuff, and he's going for it. So, yeah, super entertaining.
Well, I'll have to check out Slider. Well, I want to also shout out to another great local musician, Steve Casta, who is kind of engineering in the background. His band is Deadwatt, and hopefully you guys are going to share the stage relatively soon. And another great, one of my favorite local acts, a real cool funky groove indie song with a horn player. Sometimes you hear Rage Against the Machine or you hear Chicago. So thank you, Steve, for being in engineering in the fishbowl today. So, all right, we're going to also, we wanted to talk about your creative process and how you guys write some of your tunes. And then we're going to play a couple more. One from one of my favorites from the Oceans EP, and one off the new record. But tell you guys how you knock out a song. Who's the lyricist? Do you share it?
Yeah, I mean, as the band has evolved, the first record was a lot of my songs to begin with, and then once Evan kind of joined in towards when we started recording that record, there started to be a blend, and that's where you get, like Josh said, watercolored earlier, and that's what I think last off that record is kind of a good indication of where we were going. Once Evan's flavor was brought into the mix, and then the Oceans EP was, I don't know if I would call it experimental, but it was kind of a more rock groove focused effort. And then so, when we kind of finished with, that one came out in July of 2015, and then Elliot had to leave the band like a month after that. So that kind of, we immediately just kind of we're like, well, that was good that we did that, and we need a new guitar player now. And when Preston came into the fold, we immediately, at the very beginning of 2016, we immediately started writing what would become the Dawning record. And that was the first time that we've ever, before it was me and Evan kind of working separately and bringing pieces together and throwing things together and seeing what sticks and what doesn't and what fits and what doesn't. And when Preston joined, it was the first time that we had we had about once a week we'd get together, the three of us, me, Evan, and Preston, and just hash out riffs and come up with stuff and say, but we at the very beginning, we did have a mission statement of, all right, we want this one to be an ass kicker. Like this record, we're going to turn everything up a notch. We got our groove sort of more rock inside kicks out with the Oceans EP, and this was, we were going to go full high octane on this. So
that was a really good, I think a really good way for us to write. Like Oceans, for example, I was living in Atlanta when we wrote that, and I wrote I think 3 of those songs pretty much in a total vacuum, and was like, okay, well, here they are, and then we turned them into Dark Hound songs. And one of the cool things about this band is that everybody gets a spin on it. Everybody's got a hand in the in the pot. So, you know, if a song starts one way, even if it's maybe more or less, you know, complete, like musically anyway, the arrangement could get split up, different ideas get thrown in, you know, play around with some effects and some production sheen and other things like that. And so it makes for a really good, a diverse mixture of sounds.
You guys currently working on new material? I mean, I know an album just came out. Are you just going to focus on playing as many shows, or what do you see the band doing in the next few years?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. Well, we haven't started writing collectively again yet, but I'm sure that's going to happen eventually. You know, once we kind of feel like we've gotten over the high of playing these new songs. You know, after it's always. Once you've been playing a bunch of the same songs over and over for a couple of years and you have a full, fresh new batch, we're still giddy as ever to play some of these new ones. So once we run out of steam from that one, I'm sure we'll all start being like, hey, let's throw some other riffs around, you know. So
still charging up the old batteries,
yeah.
I think.
All right, well, let's get back to the music. And hey, listen, if you are a local act here in Music City and you can make a trek out to Mount Juliet, send me an email, fish@onebig1.com. fish@onebig1.com, and we'll get you on the heavy side of Nashville as soon as we can. We would love to have you on. We're going to focus on rock and roll, and we'll go as extreme, you know, light as something like get into folk rock, but we're going to focus on the heavier side of the bands here coming out of definitely not country, because country music is satanic. You guys know that, right? Yeah. Okay. If you're a country act, we're not going to have you on the show. All right, let's do To No End. I love this tune, and the next one, Oceans, are two of my favorites that you guys have done all together, just personally. I mean, I love all your music, but everyone has a tune that resonates with them. Well, here's a couple of the ones that I like. Right. Here it is, some more Dark Hound on the heavy side of Nashville. Well, that one is my personal favorite. Welcome back to the Heavy Side of Nashville, and a couple off the Oceans EP. That was the title track, Oceans. And we were talking about the writing process that you did. You said it's your personal favorite as well, didn't you?
Yeah. That's one of my songs, and that's it just it's really about a few different relationships in there, but it's kind of veiled. Musically, I think it tells a story musically as well as lyrically, and then it comes in real heavy at the end. And I think E.T., you want to mention where we got those ocean noises from?
Yeah, the ocean waves crashing at the end. I actually recorded that on my iPhone when I was on my honeymoon in Mexico while we were making this EP, and I was like, oh man, when this thing ends, we need to have. It's called Oceans. We need to have an ocean. And I was like, I'm going to be near an ocean in about a month. So, yeah, just modern recording miracles.
That makes it just even that much cooler.
Yeah.
A memory.
On my phone and just, squatted there and held it down into the surf for a few minutes. So me and my wife were taking a nighttime stroll on the beach. And, yeah.
Well, that's really excellent to know. I remember the night that we went to see Oblivion Myth, and, of course, you were there. We discovered you. Your mom was there as well, and
yeah.
I got you. My wife and I, we bought a couple of CDs, and your mom came up and whispered in my ear and said, "Oceans is my favorite." And and it was just, I thought it was really great to see that your guys' families are supporting you. Your wives were there that night pushing March, and that just makes it that much better.
Yeah,
That's
it is
cool.
nice because my mom has definitely hated most of the other bands I've ever seen.
well, no, it was obvious that there was some
so
support
I
there.
believe her when she tells me that she likes it, because if she didn't, she has never had a problem telling me that in the past. So,
well, we're going to wrap this up here and play a couple more songs. We have some food cooking, and a special thanks to my better half, Mary, we have a killer spread. My son's on the grill right now, and we're going to hang out for a minute and share some food and enjoy this. But thank you, Mary, for having this all ready for us and opening up the house. This is her domain.
Yes, thank you, Mary.
And next time, I'm going to tell you something. You guys aren't going to be allowed in without your females. You see what's happening again today with her?
Yep.
And she's been putting up with this with me for 15 of the last 18 years. After
She's nodding in the background.
Yeah. So unless she's got some female comrades, this isn't going to last very long. Yeah, we've met your wives and significant others. Bring them. We're going to have another get together this summer. It'll just be fun, and love to have you guys over. But I think next time you're significant. One of them's in London, right? Is it AT's? Yeah.
Right now.
Nice. Yeah. Well,
let's do it.
Well, let's talk about the upcoming show, July 12th. With who wants to talk about it, Preston? Because you had a comment you wanted to make too about as we wrap up. There was something on your heart.
Family support.
Yeah.
I'll have it, but we were laughing because my granny was actually drinking beer out of a Dark Hound koozie last week.
That's great.
Didn't have my phone with me, so I couldn't take a picture to record the record of it. But no, our next show is July 12th at Mercy Lounge. We're playing with Oblivion Myth and a few others.
3 Minutes to Live, Glass Emblem, No Name Blues. Should be fun. We're right in the middle.
What day of the week is that? I'm not looking at it.
Thursday.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. Generally not working on a Thursday night. It happens occasionally, but that makes me happy because that's most likely attainable for myself.
Yeah, we're right in the middle, so primo spot. Should be good.
All right, man. Well, hey, this has been great. Welcome, and thank you again for spending the time out here in the Electric Fishbowl premiere episode. Yeah. So we're going to nail down the name. As a matter of fact, if you're listening right now, we've thrown around a few final names for the show. What did you suggest, Steve?
It was Heavy Music City.
Heavy Music City, which actually flows pretty nice. It's nice and easy. My initial, what we posted on Facebook was Nashville March presents the Heavy Side of Nashville, but that's just kind of long and wordy. The Heavy Side of Nashville for some reason. Not the Nashville March presents, but anyway. My email address, fish@onebig1.com. Throw in a suggestion. We want to make sure we know that Nashville March is involved and that it's hard music, not country music. So I'm open. I don't know. It's open, man. That's what this is all about. We love the metal community and the brotherhood that's out there. And I love your music, guys. And I wish you all the best.
Thanks, man.
We will be out to see you again. We're going to wrap it up with a couple more. Any final thoughts that you guys want to say, man? Anything else, man?
Yeah, big thanks to you. Big thanks to Steve, Mary. All kinds of good smells coming from the kitchen.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go. We can put the music on, and we can exit the studio immediately. So enjoy. Thanks for listening to onebig1.com. Check out my other show, Retro Fresh Fish. That's 70s and 80s. It's a lot of fun. That's on 3 times a day. Just hit up onebig1.com for the schedule, and we'll see you on the flip side. Be good to each other. Here it is, some more Dark Hound.